everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this morning or afternoon or whatever time it is, wherever you're joining us from. So, today we are specifically covering test management features in TestRail Enterprise. So, we'll be showing you through our test case review and approvals feature, test case versioning, and test data parameterization. So with that, if you will bear with me for a second here, I will pull up the feature tour video that we recorded, walking you through our test management features in TestRail Enterprise.
TestRail Enterprise offers many new features and benefits over the standard professional version that can prove advantageous to teams of any size and experience level. Today, we'll be providing an overview of many of these features to give you a better understanding of what TestRail Enterprise has to offer. TestRail Enterprise features can be divided into two groups: administrative features that help IT teams, software administrators, and team leads and managers more effectively manage the tool from behind the scenes, and test case management features that will mostly be seen by and benefit the end users. Today, we'll be going over the test case management tools provided by the TestRail Enterprise plan. If you're interested in learning more about the administrative benefits, including features like SSO, project-level administration permissions, audit logs, and more, we have a previously recorded webinar that can be found on our website that highlights those features. Today's topics include test case review and approvals, test case versioning, and test data parameterization. The first feature we want to touch on today enables enterprise teams to create a test case review process, allowing team leads control to approve test cases prior to their inclusion in test runs. Enabling the approval process is done for each project and can be found in the project settings when creating or editing a project. Administrators will also need to ensure there is an active user role that can approve the test cases. These permissions can be found in the role settings. Once enabled, test cases will have an additional status field with three default options: draft, which will be set on any new or edited test cases; review, for test cases that have been completed but are not yet reviewed by a team lead; and approved, which means it's ready to be used in test runs and plans. You can also edit these or create your own custom statuses as needed. Along with the built-in statuses, test cases can now be assigned to team members along with comments to provide additional context. This, coupled with the filtering options, helps test case designers and leads easily locate any cases that need their attention. It is also easy to spot any test cases that are in a non-approved state by the little paper icon with a green pen next to the test case title. Once a test case is ready, any team member with approval permissions can update the test case to approved, indicating it's ready for use. Within a project using the approval process, when creating a new test run, and you choose the Use All Test Cases option, this will only include test cases that are in the approved and ready state. Please note, if you opt to select individual test cases when creating a run or plan, users will be able to select test cases that are not in the final approved status, but these are easily filtered out if necessary. Test case versioning lets enterprise users analyze changes made to test cases over time, making it easier to understand the change history of an area of an application or to follow changes made by test case designers. You can compare any two test case versions side by side, analyze highlighted changes between versions, restore an entire test case or just part of a test case to a previous version, and review the full comment history. Viewing and comparing a test case's version history is easy. Simply navigate to a test case and select the history from the sidebar to view its full history. To compare two different versions, navigate to the first version you'd like to compare and then select the second version in the Compare To dropdown. Here, the two-pane comparison view will appear, and you can easily see any differences between the two test case versions highlighted in red. Additionally, users with edit case permissions can restore test cases from a previous version using the Restore button that is visible in both the Compare view and the History list. Reviewers can also select individual field values from the Compare view to revert only specific changes, as well as add comments to individual test case versions. Comments associated with each test case version can be viewed on the Compare view. You can also view all comments from all versions from a test case's version history. In addition to comparing test cases, you can also compare versions of shared test steps. When you select a shared test step, you can click on the History button to view previous versions. Just like with test cases, you can compare two different versions of a shared step as well as restore it to a previous version. Teams that need to scale and test more efficiently often look to utilizing test parameterization within TestRail. This type of data-driven testing allows you to test the same basic logic or functionality in your application with multiple inputs without having to copy and maintain duplicate test cases. Within TestRail, you can run parameterized tests using test data, a general term that encompasses the concept of variables, datasets, and values. Test data allows testers to create test variables and datasets, which contain values for each variable to use in their test cases and test runs. Let's walk through an example using a checkout flow for addresses across multiple countries. You would first create a test data table where I label my rows or variables with information like names, phone numbers, street addresses, etc. Then we label our columns or datasets, which is a collection of values corresponding to each variable. There's always one default dataset whose values will be used if another dataset's values are empty. Your variables and datasets can be populated and edited either by manually typing the information in each cell, or you can populate a spreadsheet with the data and import the test data via CSV. Once your test data is populated, you can begin adding the variables as parameters to the test cases, where you would like the values to be inserted during test execution. You can select a variable from the menu or by typing a % symbol. Variables are surrounded by % symbols and can be inserted into test case fields that are text fields, such as the preconditions, steps, and some custom fields of your own creation. Then, there are two ways to generate parameterized tests for execution. First, you can add test data when you create a test run or plan within the Test Runs and Results page. The second option is to create test runs or test plans from the Test Data page. You will then select the data sets you want to use for populating the variables within the test cases you select for each run. In this case, we'll create our test runs from the Test Data page and select a couple of our data sets. We can then choose how we want our test runs organized. We can see that our test plan contains a test run for each dataset. Once we name our test plan, add any additional information to the fields and description, and select the test cases to be included. Then we are ready to add the test plan and begin executing tests. If we take a look at one of the tests that we added variables to, we can see that each variable is now populated with the corresponding dataset's value we entered previously into the test data table. TestRail's test data feature is also supported by the API with endpoints that let you view and manage your test data. Before we go, one other enterprise benefit we'd like to discuss today is the enhanced support. As an enterprise user, you'll have access to an enterprise-specific priority support queue, ensuring your tickets will be addressed as quickly as possible. You can also work with the enterprise support team to schedule direct calls and screen share sessions with support engineers to assist in troubleshooting or walkthroughs demonstrating how to set up or utilize TestRail. Additionally, you can also set up annual training sessions for your whole team that you can customize with topics of your choosing to go over specific product features, workflows, or just product basics, which can be recorded and used for onboarding as you add new users to your TestRail instance.
All right. Well, thank you so much for watching the video. I see we got a couple of questions here in the chat box from Dan, so I will let Andre take those away. But please do not be shy. Anything that's on your mind, any questions, anything you want to share with us about TestRail Enterprise, please feel free to put it in the chat box. We have plenty of time for questions and discussions. But I will let Andre kick it off with these two great questions from Dan.
All right, thank you, Jaslyn. Basically, we have two questions right now. So one concerning the test case approval. So Dan is asking if rather than looking for an icon, is there a way to sort or filter the test cases that still need to be validated? And the answer is yes. So let me just quickly share my screen. So as you can see, I have some test cases that are still in a design status. Then I have some that have already been approved, so they are ready. And I can either sort if I choose the sort option, and I can sort them by status, and I will have the ones that are approved on the top and the other ones that still need approval on the bottom. I can also do it the other way around, or if I wish just to see one of the statuses, I can just pick the filter option and then pick if I want the ones that are in design, the ones that are up for review, or the ones that are already ready to be executed. So plenty of different ways to look for those test cases. Then a question regarding test case versioning. The question is if it's possible to also compare different test cases in the step section. So not only in the other fields. So as you can see, I have this test case. I'm comparing the latest version, which is version 11, to the previous one, which was version 10. And all the fields are the same. The preconditions also don't have any changes, but then I have some changes in the steps. So I just quickly deleted some information here. So some expected results, and also a step that I had that was empty. And as you can see, that is also reflected in the test case history. Then a question if is the review state visible in the Jira plugin for TestRail? So actually it isn't, because in Jira, I can also try and pick it up here. What you can see is the test cases that are somehow connected with specific issues. This is not a good example because it doesn't have any test cases attached to it. But I can see here my test cases and the project that they are in, but doesn't show information about the status, unfortunately. Maybe it would be something we could add also here in the plugin. It is not displayed, but thank you for your feedback. Maybe that's something that we could develop in the meantime. Can you add status through the columns widget? I'm not really sure what this means. The status can be edited for in bulk. So for example, if you want to pick a bunch of cases that are in design status and you want to update those to be ready, you can just edit and you can select them and edit them and then change the status of both of those tests to ready. Then a question regarding comparison of test cases from different test suits. So the comparison is always done between different versions of the same test case. So I guess they would always be in the same test suite or subsection. I don't know if you are talking about a specific type of project or a specific use case that I'm not seeing, but the history of the test case should always be maintained in the test case itself. So you are able to compare it to any previous version there was of that test case. Even if you moved it from a section to another section, that will also be kept there. Yes, and then regarding the question to compare just the steps. So currently, we don't support, when you compare, you are actually comparing to the previous version as a whole. So there's not really a way to just look at the steps, but then your feedback is appreciated. We can create a feature request on that and try and handle it as soon as possible. And then request for a demo of, I think it's the workflow for the test case approval. So let's say I'm creating a new test, and let's add the status to review, and let's assign it. So it's just me in this instance. So I appear as both me and Andres Santos, but it's just me in this instance. I also think I need to have something here because I made it a mandatory field. And I can add this test case, and you will be able to see that it will show on my to-do list. I'm sorry, it's taking a minute. My internet connection is not the best right now. So if I go to my to-do list in test cases, since I assigned this to myself, I now can see it in my test cases tab in my to-do list. And if I just jump there, since I have the permission to approve it, I can just change the status. If I didn't have this permission enabled, I wouldn't be able to change this field here. So by changing it to ready, I just approved it, and it now can be used for test executions, because previously it wouldn't show when creating a test run. I hope that helps with your question, Dan. So test case approvals are especially useful for bigger teams that want to really have control of everything that's being tested. So you are able to ensure the quality of your tests. And also, if someone is joining the team and they are still learning on how to test, it's a way of having someone senior looking at those test cases and approving them before they can be executed. So we have another question regarding if there is a limit on the number of versions a test case can have. I don't really think there is, or if there is, it's an astronomical number. We have never run across someone trying to go over a limit. The test case that I showed already was like in version 12, but I guess there will be not a real limitation on the number of versions. Yeah, so we have a question regarding in-person training. So actually with the enterprise version, you get some onboarding sessions and some training sessions that you can distribute, let's say, throughout the year to train your users. They are not in person. We won't come to your installations, but they are live sessions, just as the one we are having, where not as the one, because now you can really speak freely. You need to ask the questions through the Q&A, but you can have those sessions where you can ask all your questions, have the training done, personalized to your team's needs. So it shouldn't be a problem for the enterprise version. Keep that in mind. For professional version, these links that that Jaslyn shared are a good way as well to do the onboarding. And a question that is not really related to enterprise, because the answer is yes for both enterprise and professional, is if TestRail integrates with GitLab. So yeah, both versions are able to integrate with GitLab, either for issues and references for your tests, or if you also wish to integrate with GitLab CI/CD, that is also a possibility. And that's available both on professional and on enterprise, not only with GitLab, but with pretty much any other tool there is on the market. So integration is really one of our strong suits. So if for the remaining audience, if you are using GitHub, Jira, Azure DevOps, if you want to integrate with CI/CD tools such as Jenkins, Robot Framework, or automation tools, you are able to do all of that with the professional version and the enterprise version as well.